Welcome back. In this video, we'll be talking about the basic structure of HTML pages and basically what is required in order to develop an HTML page. Again, this basic example is going to be following us throughout the next few videos, and hopefully you understand a little more about how this basic example is structured with the tags, the containers, the wrappers, and everything else. Hopefully you also see a few voided tags in here, such as the meta tag, and we'll be talking about the rest of these items in just a bit. First things first, let's talk about the first line on this slide, which is the doc type. What exactly is a doc type? The doc type is telling the browser or anything that's processing the page what kind of document it is, essentially what type it is, and how to load it. It may seem a little confusing, so let me elaborate. First things first, when people were using HTML4 prior to 2000, you had to use a specific doc type in order to tell the browsers what to use in the page and how to load it. Certain doc types allowed for certain frameworks and certain aspects to be loaded, while others were kind of disregarded. You didn't want to load a bunch of extra stuff if you didn't need it, especially in the days of dial-up. You would have to type this long thing out or copy and paste it in order for you to properly have a valid page or valid code in your development process versus just something super simple. Why is this super complicated? Personally, I don't know, but based on this is what everything had to be done prior to 2000. When XHTML came along, specifically version 1.1 between 2000 and 2014-ish, you had to modify the doc type just a bit. Instead of using something like a frame set, you now had XHTML, and XHTML is essentially where the validation process came from. With the improvement of HTML5, which we've been using for the past couple of years, the good thing is it's nice and easy and simple to create a doc type, which is essentially just this, doc type HTML or doctype.html with capital letters. The primary difference is that while both can be valid, once XHTML5 becomes a standard, it will be required for the capitalization. So let's go back to this basic example really quick. And you notice that the doc type is the very first line, and it should always be the very first line. Nothing before it, no spaces, no new lines, no anything before the doc type. The doc type should always be the first thing on your page, no matter what. Once you have that in, you can start coding the rest of your page. Now let's talk about some of the rest of the tags and sections. First things first, you of course have the doc type. Below that, you have the HTML tag. The HTML tag contains everything in the page except for the doc type. The HTML tag contains everything including the head, the body, and all the other tags in between. Essentially, if you don't have the HTML tag, then technically your page is not HTML. There are some exceptions, but let's just understand this. HTML tags are needed, the opening and closing portions. Next, we have the head. The head section talks about what things should be loaded for the page. We'll cover that in more detail in just a bit. And the body, of course, contains the content of the page. So the HTML tag contains the head and the body and everything in between. But these three tags, along with the doc type, are required for basic validation of a page. Let's talk about the HTML tag in a bit. So again, this includes everything in the document, including the head, body, and everything else. It's usually the second line in an HTML page and closes with the last line of the page. As I said before, it contains everything. So if you're going to have anything on an HTML page, it needs to be between the HTML tags. If you notice in the HTML tag in the opening one where it says lang equals en, we'll get to that in just a minute. Next is the head. The head includes items for the browser to be loaded, such as the title, the meta tags, the character set, any other items such as CSS or preloaded libraries, any custom tags with meta tags, you put in the head section. Not to be confused with the header section if you have experience with HTML5 or heading elements, which we'll get to in just a bit. And most importantly, this does not contain the body. The body is something completely separate because technically your rib cage does not contain your brain. So in this case, the head contains everything that's going to be preloaded, everything is how it's set up and structured, and the body we'll get to in just a minute. As I said with the body, it includes everything that is viewable to the end user. All the content that's going to be viewed by the user will be put inside the body. This contains everything on the page, such as images, videos, audio, etc. Styles and structure are applied to the content. They're not in the body itself. And just like I said before with the head, this does not contain the body. Your brain is not in your ribcage. So in this case, everything that's viewable, everything that's workable, everything that's doable in the page should be in the body. So again, if you take a look at this basic example, you can see now how things are structured with the HTML tag, the head section, the head tag, the body section, the body tags, and of course the closing HTML tag. That's it for this section. In the next section, we'll be talking about a few things in the HTML coding, along with the idea of how to modify things with some basic examples. Again, please let me know if you have any questions, and I'll get back to you the best I can.